Welcome to GV247.tv, the Global Vision Channel, bringing biblical perspective to the world in which you live.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Lamplight Project Study Guide Fellowship. Before we start, Shona, could you open in prayer, please?
Lord, we do give you thanks for the opportunity to come round your word, Lord, and we thank you that you are with each one of us and that you are taking us through this study step by step, Father, and we just ask you to illuminate your word to us and help us to understand, Lord, what points you make to us, Lord, and the discussions that we have, that we maybe things may become clearer to us, Lord, and through this we may help others that are watching this. We give you thanks, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Shona. Amen. Well, we're on section 5, we're on worksheet number 5, which is on page 29, and we're about to go on to question 3. Now, question 3 is, think about and discuss. Give examples of prophecies concerning kings and empires. So, anybody, any thoughts on that?
Can I just throw out one verse which would maybe get us started?
Sure, no bother, Marlon, yeah.
2 Kings 19, verse 6.
Yep.
King Hezekiah sends officials to Isaiah, who tells them, "Tell your master, this is what the Lord says." And I think that leads us on into the whole of this question.
But that very verse itself summarises, you know what I mean, what the question is. It's telling a king and an empire, this is what the Lord says. And then, as you say, obviously on it goes. So we can move on to the next question. No. Thoughts, Shona?
Well, I'm just reading the next verse, actually.
Yes, because that chapter is good.
Surely I will send a spirit upon him, and he shall hear a rumour and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall with the sword in his own land. And it's that being so close to the Lord that you hear exactly what the Lord wants you to do, and you're guided by the Lord. Anyway, that was me just...
No, but the whole of that chapter, which is about Sennacherib, king of Assyria, brings out very clearly about the prophets speaking to kings and empires. And you're right, Shona, it's because Isaiah is walking so closely with the Lord, he knows exactly what he's to say. And it's not good news for Israel or Judah, you know, it's bad news. But it's exactly what God is saying. And but everything he says comes to pass. No, I
was just going to say, it sometimes often is, you know, and we'll cover this in the questions, that what the prophet is actually telling the king isn't what they want to hear, really.
No.
And they've got their other prophets who are telling them all sorts of nonsense because it's what they want to hear. Now again, we've kind of covered that a wee bit.
Yeah, we saw that with Hananiah, didn't we?
Yeah.
I ended up being in Daniel, probably because I'd read Daniel a couple of times and I did a little bit in the Bible study, and I knew a bit about the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar, and that Daniel was not only told the dream back to Nebuchadnezzar, but then interpreted the dream, and how the whole of the chapter of Daniel is prophecy, more or less, and kind of talks about kingdoms to come, if you like, empires to come.
Are you familiar with Daniel at all?
I'm not, no.
No.
I was just thinking it might be worth reading chapter 2 if we could split it between us.
Yeah.
Because as Shona says, it's a perfect example. It gives that Nebuchadnezzar has the dream, doesn't know anything at all. It's like, what on earth's all this about? He asks his own magicians, as he calls them, and you know, for them to interpret the dream, but he doesn't tell them what the dream is. So they're clueless, they haven't a clue. Daniel comes along, tells them what the dream was through the Lord, you know, goes away and prays about it. We'll read about this.
That's similar to Joseph then, when he told the Pharaoh about it.
Kind of, but this is a different level.
Right.
Then he interprets the dream as to, well, this means this and this means that. So it's covering a whole area in the one chapter,
Okay.
which I think would be good for us to read. So,
This is in Daniel. In the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar, is that said right?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, "I've had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means." Then the astrologers answered the king, "May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it." The king replied to his astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will cut you into pieces, and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honour. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me." Once more they replied, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Then the king answered, I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided."
If you do not tell me the dream, there is just one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then, tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me. The astrologers answered the king, "There is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among men." This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, "Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?" Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went into the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him.
Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they might seek mercies from the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and might. You have now made known to me what we asked of you, for you have made known to us the king's demand." Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation." Then Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said thus to him, "I have found a man of the captives of Judah who will make known to the king the interpretation." The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, "Are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation?" Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "The secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed were these."
As you were lying there, O king, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than other living men, but so that you, O king, may know the interpretation and that you may understand what went through your mind. You looked, O king, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, and its legs of iron, his feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, not by human hands. It struck the statue on the feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were broken to pieces at the same time and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now I will interpret the dream to you. I will interpret it to you, king. You, O king, are the King of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over all. You are the head of the gold. After you another kingdom will rise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, and even as you saw them mixed with clay. As the toes were partly clay, partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture, and will not remain united, any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end. But it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock, cut out of a mountain, not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true and the interpretation is trustworthy. You okay for that, Heather? Yeah. 46.
Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and did homage to Daniel, and gave orders to present to him an offering and fragrant incense. The king answered Daniel and said, "Surely your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries, since you have been able to reveal this mystery." Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel made request of the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the administration of the province of Babylon, while Daniel was in the king's court.
So does that make any sense reading through that, Alistair?
A little bit, yeah.
Right, obviously you're better to read through it again a few times in your own time, but you can see that Nebuchadnezzar had this dream that it says it troubled him. He couldn't make sense of it at all. So he asked his magicians and supposedly wise men to interpret the dream, but he wouldn't tell them what the dream was. So this was basically to test them to see if they really were, or if they were just making things up. Now obviously they couldn't do it. Daniel was brought before him, and Daniel said, well, no man can do this, but God in heaven can do this. He went away, as we've read, consulted with the Lord, and the Lord gave him what the dream was, told him actually what the dream was, and then gave him the interpretation of it. And as we see, he recites the dream back to Nebuchadnezzar. This is what you dreamed, and he explains what he actually dreamed. Now, no way could anybody know what somebody else has dreamed. So that came from the Lord. So Nebuchadnezzar knew that Daniel wasn't faking it, basically, and Daniel made it perfectly clear that this wasn't from him, that it was God had revealed to him what the dream was. And then as we read through in the latter part, it tells you, the dream was the statue was the head of gold, the silver was the chest and the arms, the bronze, and then he gives the interpretation that, well, the gold head is your kingdom, and that the silver will be a kingdom that follows you, and then the one after that, the bronze, will be another kingdom that follows you, and then down to the legs of iron, that will be another kingdom that follows you. And then it goes on to allude that these will be smashed by the rock that was cut out, not with human hands. Again, there's a lot involved here, but we're not getting into too much detail at the moment. So this was explaining the kingdoms that were going to be coming after Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. So I think the reason I use that as an example, it shows that there was the dream, which, if you like, is a prophecy that was given to Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel the prophet, through the Lord, interpreted what the dream was, that his false prophets couldn't do that, as magicians. As wise men couldn't do that. And then goes on to reveal about the different kingdoms. So I think it covers the prophecy, the false prophets, and the kingdoms all in one chapter. Now, there is a lot of other things in Daniel that refers to kingdoms, prophecy. It's quite, again, as we've said umpteen times, it's a massive, massive subject, the book of Daniel. But it's to try and give you the feel of what's going on in that chapter. Does that make any sense, or are you
I think so.
struggling
No,
to follow
actually.
that a wee bit? You have to read through it yourself. There's a lot involved in that. That's about all I've got to say on that. So, anybody want to add anything to it, Heather? Anything to add on that?
No, not really. It's like when Joseph had his dream and he was telling his brothers, and they knew what that meant.
Yeah.
That they'd be bowing down to him and they didn't like it. So yeah, they're delivering a message, and
Yeah.
so,
But as we see in that, the king's quite happy with that there.
yeah,
Because he goes on to promote Daniel into
Obviously,
yeah,
quite a high authority after that. As we read on, there's other prophecy for Nebuchadnezzar that isn't quite as, it's not what he wants to hear. But as you read through Daniel, you'll come on that. Daniel 4, it's actually in. So yeah, as a kind of overview, that's roughly what's going on there. And as I say again, there's a lot more to it than that. We can speak more on that, as we probably will when we come into the end times section that's on this, because it refers to that as well. We'll leave it at that just now, I think.
Yeah, chapter 7 goes on to explain further, and as you say, in the end times it'll probably, because it's prophecy, it's telling you things that will come, things that are to happen. I don't fully understand all the book of Daniel, and I've done a study on it, so it's a vast subject.
It's a small book, but there's a great deal in it, and there'll be very few people who really understand it fully.
And there's disagreements with people as well.
Because people interpret as they see, with the knowledge that they have and the understanding that they have. And in the book of Daniel, there is a verse that says these things will be sealed up until the last times. And so there's this sense that as we get into the last days, God will reveal more and more and more, so that and for those who truly love him, who are true believers, will gain understanding. God will show us what we need to know. But certainly in Daniel it says these things are sealed up for a time. So,
And again, in the films, the list of films,
Yes.
it's listed there. Who is Daniel? And it's Jacob Prash. Now, I'm sure that film's taken off the extras of the Daniel Project. I don't know if you've actually watched the Daniel Project. Again, we're going slightly off topic on this, but it's probably more to do with end times, so we can leave that alone for a moment. But it's, Daniel was a very significant prophet. In his time, and as Marlon said, there's a lot of things that have been sealed up that will be revealed as time progresses.
I think in Daniel too, you can be reading the Old Testament and you come to Daniel, and through the study I did, I didn't understand that all these empires were so important, and that the kings that led them, and that they were conquered, and they were good kings and there was bad kings, because we've looked at that in the Judges as well, that is all, it's all a part of the account leading up to the turn of Jesus,
the time of Jesus.
The timing of
that's
Jesus.
right. Yeah, because those 4 empires are the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, and then the Roman Empire, who of course were ruling in Israel at the time that Jesus was born. So it takes you right through, Alistair, all of that. But huge subjects, so.
But that's given us.
So this is Daniel talking about that. I mean, Daniel was roughly 600 BC, roughly the time, just put a rough figure on it.
Yeah.
So 600 years before Christ, he's prophesied through the Lord that, as you said, Marlon, the Babylonian Empire and all the other empires following it, that nobody would even know existed at the time. And yet we can look back and say, well, yeah, that happened, and yeah, that happened, and that happened, and even down to the legs split. And as I say, there's a lot more in it than what we've discussed. And you look back and it's like, yeah, that all happened.
And the great thing about it, Alistair, is you can verify it historically.
Yeah.
You can go to other history books, atlases, all sorts of things, and you can find the truth of this all the way through.
It's not just the Bible that's
No.
saying, yeah, well, that happened.
Yeah.
As you say, Marlon, you can go to other.
Historical, non-biblical accounts that prove archaeologically as well. There's some of the sites have been found, razed to the ground, but they're all there, aren't they? And, it's
and the more they're finding as they dig, for archaeology, the more it's proving what the historians had written about and what the Bible says. So it's amazing that all those centuries before, Daniel was able to say all of this, and it's been proven
And in
to
other
be true.
chapters of Daniel, as you're well aware, I mean, Daniel 7, it talks about the 4 beasts, and again, it's good again because it gives you the dream, and then it also gives you an interpretation. So you're not left on your own trying to think, well, what on earth does this mean? It's actually saying, right, this is the dream or vision, and then this is the interpretation of it. So it's giving you a good clue as to what actually is going on. Again, there's a lot more to it than just straightforward.
And the good thing was that for a lot of the people who were alive, they saw some of these prophecies come true very quickly. The Babylonian exile, the destruction of Jerusalem, all these things, they actually saw it in their lifetime. So it was verified very early on, and then has been proven over and over since.
And even Jesus quotes
Yeah.
out of the book of Daniel.
And that, I think, is the greatest verification of all, that the Lord quotes so much from Daniel and from other books, and uses the same words in many cases,
So I might be totally wrong here, but what decides when Daniel said these things? What proves that he said these things before they actually happened?
Well, there's records apart from scripture, because Nebuchadnezzar was a king and his court kept records.
Right.
The Gospels are
Alistair.
1st century documents with events that all happened. Jacob Prash speaks about that in one of the films.
But again, getting away
Remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
he does, Heather, you're right.
Yeah.
But there was
So
recordings.
so it's recorded
When these kings...
before.
when they reigned.
There's historical records from all these court cells. They all kept their own historical records. They had court historians and they had annals and all sorts of things which recorded the events that were going on as they were happening. So you don't have to rely just on the Bible, although that's our greatest source of truth, but you can find it in these records. Siam often talks about going to the British Museum and places like that, and you'll find documents and you'll find tablets and you'll find all sorts of things that confirm the truth of what we're reading in Scripture.
Nowadays, people, you hear of people that say that the Holocaust never happened, but the evidence is all there to support it that it did. And it's that similar, that's why all that's recorded, because we get that now, that never really happened.
Yes, already.
That was all fabricated and everything, and that's already.
People are alive that lived through it.
Yes,
still.
There's so many witnesses and accounts from different people. There's the evidence is all there. Well, your mum's been out there and seen all the, all the evidence.
The amazing thing for me about it, Heather, is that the best records come from the Nazis, because they were meticulous about keeping records about the number of people that were killed, the number of people.
Did they?
Oh yes, so their records
So they
indict them.
anything,
They were proud of it. They thought they were doing the world a great favour. But it's the same sort of thing, just as you say, Heather, that there's other records.
I mean, even the film footage that we have, of the Holocaust, and there is this thing, I think is it not actually illegal in certain places to teach about the Holocaust in the schools?
Is that right?
In the Palestinian territories for one, but in some other areas as well. But in other places it's illegal not to teach it, so you kind of have the balance,
I have heard that it's illegal in some places because they're saying it never happened. Now, how can you say it never happened when you've got all this footage and records and what? But I think I know what you're asking then, Alistair, is that how do we know that this was written at the time when Daniel was actually on the go? And as Marilyn said, apart from our own record in the Bible, there is all these other writings that the kings
I can understand how they knew when kings reigned.
Yes.
So they knew from what their records are.
They would have their own scribes and libraries and things like
Things
that.
were very meticulously done, weren't they?
And these empires were very civilised, so they had really good systems for keeping a record of all that was happening. And
Now look at the libraries they had at Alexandria. I mean, that was some of the biggest collections of things in the world that they had there from all over. And they kept record of that. But it is a question that's raised. I mean, there is other things in Daniel that people will argue about. It is so specific. It's even naming kings and naming their names that haven't been born yet are mentioned in Daniel, and people say, well, that can't possibly been written at the time of Daniel because it's too exact and it's too specific. So they refuse to believe that. But it can be backed up through scripture, through external works, through other things.
Daniel's name is mentioned in the court records of, Nebuchadnezzar.
And even, as we've seen, their enemies, if you like, there's records of stuff from their enemies. So they're not going to make things up about their enemies, are they? So... But it's an interesting topic. Again, it's a big topic. Any other thoughts?
No, not really.
There's so many prophecies against kings. I mean, Ezekiel chapters 25 to 32 gives lots of prophecies against nations. And we would recognise a lot of these nations today. Isaiah has prophecies against Damascus. What happens to Damascus? And we see it happening before our eyes now. I'm not saying that's the final fulfilment of it, but what's happening in Damascus, it's being destroyed, and it's there in Isaiah, if you want to read it. So you go through all of these. And one of the prophecies that I think we don't often think about is in Genesis 3:15 against Satan's kingdom, So we start right away back there when God says, I'll put enmity between you and the woman's seed and all of that. So that's right from the very beginning of Scripture. We have prophecy. And prophecies, they're right through to Revelation. When Jesus speaks to the churches.
We spoke about Ishmael and the Arabs and how that way
Uh-huh.
back when we did the study, and this is all coming from that as well, because you mentioned that in Genesis. So it starts to look less detached and more fluent.
Yes, it's all intertwined and interlinked, as we were saying. And I mean, Ezekiel has lots of prophecies, Alistair. When you get to that book, it's not the easiest book either, because he's very much a visionary. He sees visions and so on, but it's incredible. And for me, as we were looking at this, the one that came to my mind after Genesis and Daniel was the one in Ezekiel 37, which talks about the dry bones. Will I read a little bit of that?
Yeah, of course.
Is that okay? Yeah. So, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, O sovereign Lord, you alone know. Then he said to me, Prophesy to these bones and say to them, Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I was prophesying, there was a noise, a rattling sound, and the bones came together, bone to bone. I looked, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them, but there was no breath in them. Then he said to me, Prophesy to the breath, prophesy, Son of man, and say to it, This is what the sovereign Lord says, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe into these slain that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath entered them. They came to life and stood up on their feet, a vast army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. And it goes on, but that's a prophecy about the restoration of Israel, Alistair, a very clear one, that though the nations cut them off and Hitler did his best to wipe them out, and others have over all the centuries, that God would restore them as a nation.
Very vivid, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And it always makes me think of the old kind of spiritual, them bones, them dry bones, because that's where it comes from. But that's so vivid to me, and I always find it so encouraging, because we've seen God do these things. We can verify that. It's before our eyes today, and that encourages you to know then that he will keep his word to you and to the church, and for the future. So that was one that really jumped out at me.
Yeah.
You're going to read something, Sean?
No.
No, I thought you were going to.
I saw a wee prophecy one next to mine, but no, you could go on all day.
We could, because the whole Bible is full of them. I think you just have to give a flavour, don't you?
Yeah.
But when you're new to it, that can sound all a bit...
Oh, yeah.
It can be very daunting.
Like Alistair's sitting there probably thinking, because I remember that way back as well.
I don't understand this at
You're
all.
thinking, what on earth is all this?
I've only just learned what prophecy is, and
and
here
that's
we
what
are.
I'm saying about Joseph, about the wheat, and it's a dream, and you're thinking, what on earth? It's that whole, but the longer you go on, things start coming together. It's...
As you learn the basics, then all of these things put the flesh on it, really, for you, Alistair. And it is daunting, and we've said ourselves this week, as we've studied, my brain's been really on overload, because there is so much, and you can't do it justice in a short time. But the idea is that people will go on and read for themselves and look into it, take time to do that, because it takes time. And we're often getting reminded that to study scripture, I think it's our pastor here, who says it's not it is an apprenticeship. You start off at the beginning, but it takes years and years. Or it's like going to university. You don't walk into the university one week and walk out the next week knowing everything about your subject. So you have to apply yourself. It's a training, isn't it? And
you don't just walk in and build a house on the first day or the first week of being an apprentice. It's bit by bit.
Yeah.
And you'll probably look and think, well, no, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. There's so much goes into that, the foundation, and
but it's character building.
You're building up bit by bit, aren't you? Yeah. And everybody's got a wee role in that, all the different workmen that contribute towards it, and that's like us sitting round the table,
It is.
But
Yeah, very much so. And as we've said, I mean, you start reading through this, and I don't know if alien's the right word, but there's a lot of things, because we're not used to that kind of thing, are really strange. I mean, even, the prophecies and whatnot, you can read through that initially, as you've said, Heather, and you're like, oh, I don't know about this, because it's not the kind of thing we're used to. And then, as you've said,
normal, isn't it?
it is a wee bit,
but
the scripture, and you're going into supernatural things, and they're not called supernatural for no reason. They are out with our normal realm and out with our understanding, but it doesn't mean they don't exist.
It's the same as what you say about the names. I remember when I first read Ezekiel, I'd heard people preach on bits of it, but I was going through the Bible, one of these go through the Bible in a year, and when I first read it, I know that I just skipped over chapters because I thought, I don't understand what this means at all. And I had to get to grips with the Bible kind of as a whole, and get the thread that runs through it, before then I could really think about the detail, and particularly the detail of prophecies, which are very difficult. Some are clearer, but some are difficult to understand, and you have to apply yourself to that,
But then you can have a wee light bulb moment, and you think, I remember reading in one of the earlier chapters of Ezekiel, and it talks about a wheelman and a wheelman, and I automatically had this vision of the rollerball mechanism that's used in many appliances today, and it was like, oh my goodness, that's in the Bible. Well, no surprise, nothing new under the sun.
But how could they have
known that? And it's like, well, what?
God showed them.
God showed them. And from then we came, our generation subsequently. So just little things can make you think, wow.
But in the same token, we've all heard interesting and unusual interpretations of Ezekiel. So there's quite a lot of strange interpretations out there.
And not something to worry about at this point at all, Alistair.
As we've said,
Really,
the Lord will reveal things to you
when you need it, or
as you require it, or as you need it. So you can maybe read through something that means absolutely nothing to you, and then at another stage you read through the same thing, and as you say, sure, you have this little light bulb moment where the Lord's actually revealing something to you because you need to know that. And it's like, right, I get it. So don't expect to read through something and
Get it.
fully understand it the first time you read it, because that's not the way it works. Not in my experience.
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So
Interesting.
So that was question 4. I mean, give examples of prophecy. No, that was question 3. I'm even getting confused
Going on
with
to
question
question 4 now.
We're going to question 4. Again, we're almost out of time, so we can. I don't know whether we should start on 4 or thoughts. Could give us something.
I think so, because
Please,
we've got to get through a few.
Question 4. Think about and discuss. Give examples of prophecy pointing to the Messiah. Any thoughts, Alistair?
I would say about his birth.
Okay.
Am I right in
That's
saying
an
that?
excellent place to start.
Yeah.
About people prophesying about his birth and where it was going to be, and who was going to be there.
You've been doing your
That's
homework.
exactly
You've been
that.
doing your homework, boy.
Not really. I'm just
Right, that's
You find these in Isaiah and Micah, prophesying about his birth and where it will happen.
Yeah.
So that's a very good place to start.
I'd done a study on this previously. and I'll not go through them.
No, because
there's
hundreds.
literally hundreds. This was, and it's probably not an all-inclusive list, but 353 Old Testament prophecies for Christ. So there's 353. There's probably more. It'll give you the prophecy, what it's about, and then it also gives you the fulfilment in Scripture as well. So there's lots of examples of that. I don't know if you look through, if you turn over a couple of pages, this is maybe cheating, and go into our next section, section 6, Jesus Christ and the Gospel. If you look on page 34, there's a whole list of prophecies there about what this question's asking.
Okay.
So that, you know, just as a kind of skimming stone through it, they've picked these ones. But as you say, Alistair, there's prediction about where he was going to be born, how he was going to be born, the place he was going to be born, where he was going to be brought up, if you like, because it'll tell you, out of Egypt I called my son. And if you were, I would imagine that at the time, if you were looking at these prophecies before it had happened, trying to piece them together would be quite difficult, because, as I say, he's going to be born in Bethlehem. Okay, so that's Bethlehem. But he's going to be called out of Egypt. So they're like, well, how could he be born in Bethlehem if he's called out of Egypt? And then it also tells you that he's going to be a Nazarene. So if you're looking at this beforehand, it could probably be like, what on earth? But you look at it after the event, and it makes perfect sense.
You see it all in the New Testament, you know, and it all refers back, and everything about the Lord that was prophesied in the Old Testament has either been fulfilled or will be fulfilled. I mean, like the crucifixion, that was predicted before crucifixion was even understood or known, and that he would be rejected by his own people. And the detail of it is not just the major things like the birth and the resurrection, or the crucifixion and the resurrection. It's all the other detail of his life.
Different people. It's different people at different times that have actually given the details. That's what is so significant about it. Hundreds of years prior to that. But it's all in the lamplight, all the remember, it's all in every book.
Yes, that's really helpful.
Yeah, if you look.
Well, guys, I'm afraid we're out of time for today, but we can continue on with this in our next one. So thank you all very much for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
This is GV247.tv, bringing biblical perspective to the world in which you live. A powerful free resource with hundreds of short films on a wide range of Bible topics from experts around the world, plus full-length sermons and programs for teaching and encouragement. Choose from current affairs, signs of the times, a chance to voice your own opinion, and special offers on our full-length feature films, documentaries, and study materials. At over 4 hours in length, the Lamplight Project is a systematic 12-part Bible study series, a powerful teaching tool that begins with the origins of life and takes the viewer on a comprehensive journey packed with high-profile interviews, film, graphics, and illustrations, concluding with the return of Christ and an encouragement to stand firm and be faithful. Complete with a free study guide download for both personal and group study, this powerful interactive guide connects to over 1,000 programs with expert interviews on GV247.tv, our free service web TV channel. We've been serving the body of Christ for over 30 years, and if you would like further information, please do not hesitate to get in touch.